This is WZRD Chicago 88.3 FM. And we have with us Dawan Muhammad. He is a multi-reed jazzman. How are you today, Dawan?
I'm fine. How are you?
Very well. Well, first of all, multi-reed. So, how many reed instruments do you play?
Well, most of the woodwind family, I've not really, uh, fully accomplished. I have played quite a few at some point in time. I'm mostly just focusing on the saxophones and the flute and clarinet right now.
Which is your primary one, and which one
Well,
did
the,
you
the,
start?
the, the saxophone,
Saxophone.
and you have to understand that I'm pretty much retired. I don't play as much as I'm still involved in the in production end of things, but I don't play that much.
Hmm. Yes. Well, do you play at all? Do you miss it?
Yes, I do. Yeah, I do. I'm trying to get to a point where I would can get out and play more. I did have some health problems, and I've been off for a good 10 years or so.
Mhm. It's it's pretty heavy, right? Like the saxophone, is it pretty heavy that while you have to hold it up while you're playing? I never played it, but it kind of looks like a heavy instrument.
Well, it's it can be heavy. It's not so much of that because you adjust and learn how to. You have a strap if
Hmm.
and everything, and but that puts pressure on your neck and stuff. So it can be, but it you adjust to it. It's not the heaviness is not the thing. It's the it's just the actually learning uh, to build up the technique and everything to play it. Yeah.
Hmm. So let's see how did you start? Were you very young when you were introduced to it? Why did you go down
I
this?
didn't really start young. I mean, I should say I did get a beginning, an introduction to it in say like the third grade,
Mhm.
but I didn't take an interest in it until I was like in my late teens. I put it down. I didn't really take a serious interest in it until I was in my late teen as a teenager.
So what happened when you were a teenager?
I just decided that, well, I always listened, number one, but I decided that I wanted to actually be involved as a player, as a, as a performer. I hate to say perform because I wasn't really interested in it from that perspective, but more or less I wanted to really make music. You know.
Mhm. So you're quite a creative at heart.
Yes, I think so.
Did you start with music right away, or did you start with written poetry?
No, I started. Music was sort of like as a part of the culture.
Hmm.
Uh, it kind of to me it was all a part of like even sports and everything. There were certain things you did as a kid growing up, and you had certain influences, and everybody expected you to be involved to a
Hmm.
certain degree, and some people went on and excelled further than that.
Hmm. So in other words, your peers or the adults wanted you to be involved.
Yeah, well, yeah, they it was expected growing up in certain areas and in certain communities and families. It was something that you did.
Oh.
That's why as a African American, uh, people expect us to be able to sing, dance, and play sports and stuff because that was what was open to us. And we kind of did those things. And
Hmm.
it wasn't really a big deal. Now today they make with big entertainment industry and all of that, they make a big deal out of it, and everybody's talking about uh, how how good they are or how popular they are and everything like that. But in my growing up, it was like just a cultural thing. It's something that you did.
So was it something that the music, was it something that you did with your friends and when you hung out, or was it something that you did to make a living, or both?
No, we didn't make it much. It wasn't. We weren't making a living. Wasn't really really a part of it.
Oh.
You know, I'm saying it's not just with your friends. It's something that you did. You
Mhm.
know, you were expected to participate at some level.
Mhm. So when you Life Force Jazz, did you come up with that name? Life Force?
No, it was a drummer by the name of who has passed on by the name of Harold AC came up with that name.
Hmm.
But it was during the time that Billy Higgins and I were. I was kind of pulled into this whole idea of community uh, music, and I had been doing that. I mean, for a long time, but other people with like minds started getting together. And when I had moved to Los Angeles, I ran into Billy Higgins, and then another brother by the name of Kamal Daoud. They were putting this place together called the World Stage, and which is now world renowned as a community spot for developing young artists. Um, and in the process, many artists were coming together and doing things. And as one of the artists was Harold Lacey, and he said, you know, we were talking about recording and putting music together in independent productions and stuff. And he said, you ought to call it Life Force. So that's what happened.
Is that in Peña, Berkeley, California, or is it in Los Angeles?
La Peña is another cultural center, but it's in Northern California. It's not in Los Angeles.
Oh, and Life Force Jazz is where now?
It well, it's not in any one. The headquarters is because I'm actually running the operation
Uh-huh.
is in Northern California now, but it actually started in Los Angeles.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
So
but
did you inherit it, or there wasn't anybody else to take care of it, and then you had to take over? What happened?
well,
Mhm.
uh, it always was an artist collective. It
Mhm.
wasn't like you know I happened to be the person that was handling most of the administration,
Mhm.
but it's an artist collective, and we were doing things and trying to record and help people. We all got together and would help each other out with projects and stuff like that. And I happened to be the one that had the most experience about the industry and doing things like that to help artists become independent, producers. That's
Mhm.
what we were trying to do. So, and Billy, of course, was the main attraction. He was the person that brought everybody together and helped start a lot of projects, and a lot of young people were he was mentoring at that time. And then, of course, he passed in 2001, and I've just been trying to keep it going. But this we started it back in the 80s.
Wow.
Yeah.
So the what about the recording equipment? Was that hard to get good recording equipment?
Uh, well, when we started out, it wasn't. So we got people uh, who had studios and engineers and stuff like that involved,
Mhm.
and they became associated with us, and we could do a lot of projects with them.
Mhm.
So there was a lot of collaboration going on, and then eventually we picked up little bits of equipment and stuff to do things ourselves, but it really wasn't necessary for us to do that. It just so happens that we like the idea of doing live recording. So we could do that by just making sure that the projects were developed well enough to where if we did happen to have a machine available to record it, that it would be good enough to do something with, you know.
So how does this tie in with Bobby Matos' album, the Bobby Matos La Peña, Berkeley, California album?
Yeah, yeah. Well, Bobby Matos was a friend and a person that always was supporting the music, and he also was a community activist and a person that was always trying to promote the art form. And his specialty, of course, was Latin jazz because he was a part of the Latin community as well as uh, the jazz, the straight ahead jazz community. And when we were putting all of our stuff together, a lot of times we didn't just do productions all the time. We did workshops in the community, in the schools, and all that kind of stuff. And Bobby and I found ourselves working together with a lot of that. And when it came time for him he had been with a lot of labels uh, for his own professional uh, projects. And he liked the idea of the collective that we had put together. And when he came aboard, he said, I'm going to start producing my own stuff. And I said, okay, I like the way Lifeforce, is doing things. So we said, okay, great. And he started right off. He already had some recordings and stuff that he wanted to develop, and it ended up with him becoming the Latin jazz director, or so to speak, or overseeing the Latin jazz department. And he did several of his own recordings, but he also brought in a lot of other people who were specializing in Latin jazz. And so that's how the Bobby Matos connection took place. It just so happened that he originally from New York, but he lived on the West Coast in L.A. And so he had a New York band and he had a Los Angeles band, and he was always doing things. So when he came aboard with Lifeforce, I was in L.A., he was in L.A., and at that particular point in time. But in the process, I moved back to the Bay Area after I had been down there for about 10 years or so. And when I came back to the Bay Area, I was involved in the community with jazz festivals and doing other things. And I would periodically book or invite Bobby up to the Bay Area to do things and bring his band. And one of those occasions was I had booked him at the San Jose Jazz Festival, and the people who knew about Bobby were wanting him to appear in the Bay Area, so outside of the festival, because San Jose was roughly about 50 miles or so from San Francisco, Oakland, and areas like that. So we ended up putting that together at La Peña, which was a community Berkeley cultural center, and well known for all doing a lot of innovative things and cultural enrichment and all that. And so it worked out that Bobby was able to perform there live the night before he did the festival in San Jose. So that's how that all happened, and I was able to record it. So I mean, I had a guy come in who was actually doing the sound there. His name was Mauricio Acevedo, and he actually did an excellent recording of the performance. So we didn't really have to do very much to it. It was just pretty much like it was, the performance on the record. And we just now what is it, 18 years or so later, we just, Bobby died in 1976, I mean, excuse me, 2017. Yeah, 2017. And one of the things, last things we agreed on before he passed is I hope you'll be able to do something with that stuff we did at La Peña.
Mhm.
And we're just not getting around to doing that.
So you talked about African Americans having their culture and playing the music. Do you know if the Latinos also did that?
Oh yeah, that this what America, which is considered a melting pot,
Mhm.
is of cultures, so to speak. That's what America's really all about, uh, and that's one of the main things that I think is appealing to other parts of the world about America. Is you have all these different people here and different cultures, and uh, so the Latin community, as far as music is concerned, the Latin community probably invests as much in the that culture as black or African American or any other ethnicity. So, but I would say that the Latin community really invests in their music.
You said that Bobby Matos was an activist too. In what areas?
Well, I mean, I'm saying from a music standpoint,
Oh,
there just if you look at the music industry itself, it's been a struggle for other cultures uh, to have equal opportunities in the music industry, just as any other place. So, what Bobby did is, I don't know if you recall, there was a recent movement to take Latin jazz out of the Grammys, and did not recognize Latin jazz as a pertinent aspect of the community or and the culture. And so Bobby was one of the four people in the forefront of getting that overturned, uh, and along with a lot of other people, of course. But things like that, and plus, and he, when you look at this, the actual truth of the everything historically, um, Latin jazz, Afro-Cuban, Caribbean, all of that is considered by those people from those areas as African, or evolving from the same roots, so to speak. So if you studied it and everything, you come out and you say, well, okay, there's these rhythms that developed in Africa or emerged in Africa, and then they took on various characteristics in various or areas before coming to America, and then in America they took on another, because then you had the black slaves and what they were doing uh, musically to depict what was the experience in the culture, coming up through slavery and all of that. And so all of that is touched upon in these other art forms, that related to that. And so Latin jazz, like I say, or salsa, or whatever. They got so many different categories. We didn't necessarily name those categories. It's the people who they put that together for marketing purposes and all of that. But those are the categories that people identify with. But in our mind, it emerges from Africa. So
yeah, and they were trying to diminish its worth in the past, but now it seems as if almost every artist that I speak with, they want the Latin jazz influences are embedded in their music. They're actually trying to weave it into their music. They love it.
Oh yeah, yeah. Well, it's a natural. It's only natural. You have, the European uh, approach to music was one of, you know, harmony and melody, and and people say, well, that came from Europe, and then the rhythm aspect came from Africa.
Mhm.
Although, in Africa we look at it as we hear the melodies and the harmonies and everything in the rhythms, you
Yeah.
know. So uh, that that's how we hear. But in the Western world, they tried to put there was a merge between the European concept of harmony and melody and everything, and put it with the African concepts of rhythm, and so uh, that's why it becomes really popular and important now, because the people who really, even though the economy of it is not so much beneficial for, say, Latin or African or African Americans, but the what little money that we do have, we invest that in music. Now, the people who are running the industry, they make a lot of money off of that as well.
Mhm.
So they naturally is going to be popular because they see profit in it, whether they like it or not. But it just so happens that when you promote something and it becomes popular, you start to make a profit, and then everybody starts to like it.
Well, have you worked with the record labels? You said that, and we know that they try to promote music to the widest audience so that they could make the greatest profit. But if you or people you know have worked with record labels, did they ever ask you to change your music so that it's more popular, change it from what it is to make it more far-reaching?
Well, this is the purpose of independent production.
Mhm,
It is to salvage the integrity
mhm,
of the culture and the art form. So we're not really concerned about what the popular music industry, and I'm not, when I say we, the few independent people that I'm talking about that are, diehard artists that want to really, they're not really concerned about the money and the popularity and all of that. They're trying to preserve a legacy, basically. And so their interest is in, you know, getting an opportunity, and you do that by uniting and helping each other, because it's an expensive process, and you helping each other produce something that is aesthetic value, you know. So when we look at the industry, we see all the popularity in it, and it's very difficult because people are trying to survive. They want to, they may not get rich, but the idea is to make popular, the popular thing so profitable and glamorous that you forget about making a contribution to the art form and the integrity of that, and cultural enrichment. I just forget about all of that. Just try to make the money.
mhm.
So when labels like Lifeforce and many others that have now come about, they're they're not putting that as the primary objective, you know. So in other words, you can say that we're an alternative to that.
It's almost like those. oral historians that are trying to preserve the disappearing language. But thank goodness, uh, your jazz, your music is alive and well.
Yeah, well, that's the blessing of it is to be able to. It took a long time for us to get to a point where we can at least, uh, and I guess the technology has a lot to do with it. Uh, in some cases, technology is more of a hindrance than a help, but then in other cases, it does allow you be to be able to participate in that aspect of the game. You
Mhm.
know, um, so you can now use your recorder and I mean your phone or your camera or whatever it is to record stuff and without going through a major process with a professional agency or studio situation, and you can and the quality is pretty good, so you can do those kind of things now.
For the Bobby Matos album, La Peña, Berkeley, California, did you are you on any of the tracks with Bobby?
No, no, I produced it because
Hmm.
I had set that whole thing up with the whole idea and
Hmm.
all that.
Yes.
But I wasn't in Bobby's band at the time. Although I have played with Bobby, yes, and I have been, in his band at some point for certain things. But I didn't perform on any of those tracks that were on that,
Mhm.
and it was straight just like it was. When they did it. I think when people hear it, they get the feeling it's like being right there, and it was happening right then and there. There wasn't a whole lot of doctoring up to try to make the tracks be more commercial or anything like that. It just happened to be a clean recording that happened, you know. And I'm sure that all of the artists that were involved in everything will say, "Oh, geez, I didn't." In fact, I've talked to most of them, and they say, "I didn't, I didn't think it was that good that what we did because in the performance, it wasn't like they rehearsed and prepared and was set out to record anything. In fact, I don't even know that if a lot of them didn't even know. I think only Bobby and I knew it was being recorded
Oh.
at the time, and then." We told everybody afterwards, yeah, and then a few people had heard um, cut a track here and there, and they said, "Geez, I didn't know that it sounded like that." So it's those kind of experiences to me are the best kind because you get a chance to experience the spontaneity of the creativity.
Was it recorded over one day, or is it over two
No,
days?
this was a one performance. It was a 2 hour performance
Oh, okay. Wow.
on the spot.
Hmm. How big was the audience?
Oh, it was pretty good. La Peña is not a big place, so it was 100, 200. I mean, I think it'll hold about 250 people or something like that.
Very nice. And
And
it was outdoors?
I beg pardon?
It was outdoors or indoors?
No, it's indoors. It was indoors,
Uh,
and there was a dance floor. The people were dancing. You know,
yeah. So his Heritage Ensemble is his band. So when he's in New York, is it the same band or he has two different bands? One.
well, the name changes. The Heritage Ensemble was a name that was used for certain things. Okay, the reason that the record is called that is because Bobby has passed, and the idea is to preserve the legacy and keep the heritage. Those who inherited the music to keep that going. So, but his most popular name for his bands are the Bobby Matos and his Afro-Latin Jazz Ensemble or jazz band, or whatever the case may be. Now, the people who are still alive that participated in the La Peña performance have formed a Bobby Matos tribute band
Oh.
that you'll probably be hearing about. And they're playing all of the music that Bobby's bands played over the years because some of them were members with Bobby for years.
Mm.
And so that's going to be coming out probably over the summer and from that point on. But that was inspired by the release of this the La Peña record.
So that
And
new album over the summer is going to be released through Lifeforce Jazz as well.
most likely they will probably, but they have the option of doing something else because at the end of Bobby's life, he was still the director of the Latin Jazz Department of Lifeforce, but he formed another label called Cafe con Bagels,
Mm.
and he only did one record with that. But they could possibly use that label, but nobody's doing anything with that now. And but I helped Bobby to do that, and I would help if the guys wanted to use the Cafe con Bagels label, they could do that. But they're calling it the Bobby Matos Tribute Band.
Mhm.
So you can look for that name.
Okay. So this is a collective of musicians helping these independent artists and giving them a venue to play, right? And then also encouraging them to keep on playing. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Mhm. So it is a collective. How has it changed over the years? Is it bigger now? Was it very large at what time? At one time, how what? Give us a short history of how this collective has emerged and has transformed.
Well, it it is of course larger now uh, as far as the number of participants in the projects. That's what built the membership, so to speak, up. The every time somebody recorded that was working with the Lifeforce uh, program, the Lifeforce Jazz program, those people were added. Each recording that came out under the label, those people who participated in that were added to the roster. So what you have is I know it's over 100, uh, well over 100 artists now that have been involved in a Lifeforce Jazz project of some kind, and is on one of the recordings. And so that's how that came about. But there's more people that have expressed interest and want to get involved. I'm just an individual, and we really haven't built up a staff that could accommodate all of the inquiries and stuff that we're getting.
Oh.
So but it could. The idea for me, what would help if some of the young people, they have a different approach now. The younger people, they're here again, the technology and all, they can deal with all of that, but they didn't really put in the or was not necessarily exposed to the type of tradition that we were exposed to, I should say. And so conceptually, when it comes to independent production, they are easily swayed by the technology.
Mhm.
So when you get to something like Live at La Peña, that raw, uh, pure spontaneity, creative spontaneity is something that they are not necessarily prone to do. They're interested in it, and they say, but it's not something that right off the bat they can really identify with because they can use this technology. They,
Mhm.
you know what I'm saying? They say, oh, we'll just do that and we'll put this in here, there, and create it that way.
Mhm.
So therefore, we haven't really pulled. All there are some young people though that have come in and done some great things, but we haven't pulled like that vast majority of the young generation into that because it's more of people who identify more with the traditional approach.
Mhm. The actual playing,
Yeah,
they're using technology to create the sound, but they're
yeah,
not immersed in the actual instruments as the others were. Those that are less technologically advanced are more adept with the actual instruments, is what you're saying, right?
yeah. That's one aspect of it, and it's a big aspect of it. But the main issue that I'm trying to get to is that when you're not doing something, uh, you tend to lose that enthusiasm about doing that. So when I say the technology, I'm talking about people became more involved with the technology. They're still very knowledgeable of the theory of music, the
Mhm.
the technique. They have technique. They know all of that. But the enthusiasm about taking that approach, because if it isn't really the most popular approach, it's not going to make the kind of money that they want. So we go back to the economics again. So
Mhm.
everybody starts to say, well, first of all, they're looking to be recognized for something, and they're looking to win awards and be Grammy and build a brand. This is what the terminology is today. Everybody's more concerned about building their brand.
Mhm.
Well, the life force approach is not about that. If that happens, good, but that's not what we're really our primary objective is to preserve the tradition and the
Mhm.
legacies. So
Mhm. Hey. Is it hard now to preserve that legacy because the younger generation is kind of distracted.
yeah, yeah, it's harder. Um, what we call now, we have to look at niche markets if we're going to really to 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 stay afloat. Not necessarily get rich and everything, just to stay afloat. We have to look at niche markets with people who like minds who are actually interested in preserving those traditions and looking for, you like, okay, this year, you probably know that they're celebrating this 100 years, Miles Davis and John Coltrane and all that. Well, that's a big thing. So even the young people that are doing that, uh, you know, it is something that it is happening. And
Mhm.
I guess there should be a lot more of that happening with a lot of the other artists, Duke Ellington and everybody else. So, uh, but uh, it's a niche market, so it's not going to be overwhelmingly popular, but it's going to be something that is considered and considerable.
Well, you're quite a historian and you understand the culture. You're uh, definitely have a great store of knowledge. Do you teach?
I used to. I was involved in. I have been fortunate enough to receive grants and serve as artist in residence in various institutions
Mhm.
and stuff like that over the years. As I said, I'm fortunate to be able to get around right now because I have been able to, just jump up and do things that I used to do.
Mhm.
So, and that's just the reality of it. But I stay involved as much as I possibly can.
And what about do these young people that are still are interested? Are they students? Are they music students, or are they just like artists wanting to build their brand?
Well, some of them are both, you
Mhm.
know, and they're trying to balance that approach um, because it's hard when you live in a society. The society is brand oriented right now. They're, and it's everything is uh, judged or based on material gains.
Mhm.
So when you start talking about aesthetic values or something about enhancing, cultural or enriching cultural awareness and all that kind of stuff, that's okay, but it's not, it doesn't overwhelm or pique the interest as somebody who is considered, say, a musician or an artist that has grandiose materials gains and travels in luxurious uh, vehicles and living an extravagant lifestyle.
So
That had be,
have you found anybody that's young and that is not that commercial that shares your passion to preserve the heritage?
yeah, there are many. There are many, but it's not as many as they go the other route. It's because it's hard for them. They see everybody what's being promoted in society. They have to deal with that, and that's just so happens to be what it is. Now, there is the other option and approach where you actually attain you're able to weather the storm and stay in the game long enough to where you have generated a process that provides you substantial income to where you can afford to uh, your habit, so to speak, of preserving the legacy. So you're not really overwhelmed with how you're going to survive and all that, and you can put some time into developing uh, a concept and everything, and still eat and be fairly comfortable. So
Was was Bobby Matos at this stage at any point in his life?
yeah, I think he had come to that. See, he was, I mean, he's pretty popular. He had in what he did, and he was able to hire people, keep a band together. I'm talking about it goes so much further than just being able to play, the instrument. It's uh, it's more than a notion to try to do that and keep up with all of the stuff that's going on. That where you can't compete with it, but you have to kind of somewhat be able to survive and stay in it if you like, if you love it that much. So yeah, Bobby was. I would say he had reached that point because, and I guess the evidence is in that how people now that he's passed, how people have relate to his contribution. So the people in his band decided to form a tribute band
Mhm.
and travel with that to do this. So that shows you the value, you know.
Well, Bobby Matos was a composer too, right? So
Yeah,
this album, are there a couple of tracks that offhand that you could name that he composed?
yeah. The I think the opening track it was one he wrote for his son, who was also on the record,
Mhm.
Justin Matzos, and I think it's called Song for Judd.
Yes.
And the because this was a live performance, they in between sets and they would play the theme. Oh, let me see, I got to get the record to. They would play the theme, and that was called Mi Bomba de Corazon.
Oh, no
Uh,
wonder it's the last track of both disc one and disc two. One of them is like about 2 minutes long, and the other one is 55 seconds long.
and those are the theme, and
Mhm.
that's the Bobby wrote. They're the same song, basically, but
Uh,
they closed each set. So, but it's the theme. So those are two right there that he did. But
mhm,
he did pay tribute to the other composers that he did those arrangements
mhm.
of those other tunes. Yeah,
What about the Jazz Messenger?
that was composed by Theo Saunders, who
Uh,
is an excellent all-around pianist
mhm.
and composer, and but he wrote that for Bobby's band, and he
Oh,
also wrote "Free South Africa."
mhm. Yes, I saw there were two Theo Saunders.
Yeah,
Um, Was it at that time that Nelson Mandela was getting a lot of attention with what he was doing in South Africa?
I wasn't there when he. In fact, I don't know when. I would imagine that was probably a
The
big
inspiration.
influence, but
Yes.
I don't know when Theo wrote the piece.
Mhm.
All I know is that was the first time I had heard it.
And what you think
Uh,
about it? What you think of it when you heard it?
I heard it. I loved it.
Mhm.
Both of them. I mean, both tunes, the messenger, the jazz messenger, and Free South Africa.
Mhm.
Though that this recording was the first time that I had heard those
Mhm.
tunes,
Yes.
and to be honest, the material, the performance at La Peña served as sort of a rehearsal for the next night, which would be at San Jose Jazz Festival.
Mhm.
They were premiering. It was those most of that music was premiered uh, uh, at the La Peña
Mhm.
performance. So it was the first, time for two or three of those tunes that they'd ever been played, and they
Oh.
hadn't really had time to, rehearse them. And this was that's why, one of the reasons why we were anxious to have that opportunity, because we did get a chance to play them there,
Mhm.
because they were supposed to be premiered at the San Jose Jazz Festival the next day,
So it
but
was
we got it.
actually yeah. So it was actually the debut of those two tracks then.
Right, yeah, those two
Oh,
tracks and
so
a couple of other ones, I think. But as far as the arrangement's concerned, they all were prepared for that performance at the San Jose Jazz Festival. But I think Bobby was constantly arranging. So a lot of the covers, like All Blues and Listen Here, those are very popular tunes. And he just had there were like spontaneous arrangements, even because they had sketched out something that day. We went for the sound check, and they said, "Okay, let's do this one."
oh,
You know,
yeah,
so that's
quite the virtuoso.
yeah,
What about you? Do you arrange much, compose much?
that's one thing that I do. Yeah, because I can still do that
Mhm.
and still get enjoyment of being participating. So
Mhm.
I have a lot of material that, and I'm constantly writing.
So who
So
are these going to be coming out on some CDs, or are you writing for some other artists that will play them? How is it coming along?
it's coming along fine. I do both.
Oh,
I haven't put anything out on myself since 2015, I think 2015 or 14 or whatever was the last one I did. But this Bobby uh, Matos project had inspired me to do another one.
mhm,
Uh, I was already in process of working with a pianist composer, Glenn Pearson, who was recently with the Count Basie band, and he's been with all kinds of different people and played a lot. But he's also a music educator, and
Mm,
so he spends a great deal of his time involved with the education system. But
mm,
he had never released anything on under his own name. He'd been a sideman on all kinds of stuff, and
mm,
this is going to be his first one. Well, and working with him, and we're in the process of just about finishing it. I decided to put a compilation of my compositions together,
mm,
and they're ones that are not. They've been performed before, but not technically, I should say, and with the technology done. Most of mine were done like Bobby's, live, right on the spot, and so I had a chance to do some studying on learning how to clean those things up,
mm,
and so I'm doing that, and we hope to have those ready for release in June.
mm.
Both Glenn Pearson and my project.
So you're remastering some of your tracks then.
Right. Mm-hmm.
How long did it take you to put together this Bobby Matos album?
Well, when we actually started doing it, and we it took us a long time to. We knew we wanted to do it,
Hmm.
but we allowed all kinds of distractions and other things to come. But after Bobby had passed, I'm going through all of this archive of stuff that I have on everybody, and a lot. That's another thing. We have had a lot of life force artists pass recently,
Oh.
and I got all this stuff, and I'm going through it and everything, and it came. It just so happens that the Bobby Matos project was the most complete and ready to go as it was, and so we couldn't just let it sit now because we had to either do something with it or leave it alone.
Mhm,
So we said, okay, let's move on this. This is the first thing I got to. I'm going to have to go back through the archives and do that with a lot of stuff,
mhm,
or at least prepare some other people to be able to continue that, you know. But that's just where it goes.
mhm,
So we have we'll be doing that kind of thing as long as I can do it, and then hopefully, like the people that I work with, my engineers and stuff like that, they're all uh, aware of the approach and the concept and what we need to do with a lot of the stuff.
If our listeners want to learn more about you, where should they go, Dawan Muhammad?
Well, you can Google and get some information, uh, but I haven't really, and it's purposely, I haven't really focused on trying to build a brand.
Mhm,
Uh, I think that part of my legacy is to reveal that there's a difference between trying to do that and actually building a brand and building a legacy are two different things in reality. Most people think it's the same thing, but uh, and in the jazz world, you see it a lot because there's a lot of great artists that you never ever heard of, you know, and you won't find out probably until after they're gone. And
mhm,
and Bobby would probably fall in that category as well, although he was very popular. He wasn't as popular as if he had just focused on building his brand, you know.
mhm,
So, and he wasn't interested in that, I don't think either. But um, so I think it's a thing that automatically happens in the time that it's supposed to happen, and you may be alive when it happens, and you may not be.
Well, let's say,
but the
what about like Louis Armstrong, Count Basie? They were very famous while they were alive. Were they were building their brand, right? And they were selling their brand. Wh- what's
uh,
your opinion?
well, I wouldn't consider that. I think that you have to understand that many of us, and those people, particularly those are the pioneers,
Hmm.
they were relegated to a certain
Hmm.
thing
Yes.
that would they had to be able to do stay afloat to just do what they did,
Hmm.
you know. And that's where the technology comes in. You can go into social media and do all this stuff, and even and evidence of it is that today you got people in social media talking about a bunch of stuff and building their brands and doing everything, but it doesn't carry the weight necessarily, and it gets much more attention. But when it comes down to it, uh, it's very difficult for it to be actually the test of time is not there. That's what it becomes more difficult for it to be long lasting. You know, uh, it becomes more temporary. You get built up real big and quick, but it's temporary. And once it cuts off, you forget it.
Hmm.
You know, but the people like you're talking about, Duke Ellington, Count Basie, you're not going to ever forget those. You know.
Well, Dawan Muhammad, thank you so much for your insight, and we hope that some artists will learn from you and find a sweet spot to make a living, but also to preserve that heritage and be good at it and actually actually uh, be it instead of just using technology.
Well, hopefully that's it. And even when we got to have find a happy medium. You know, if since the technology is here, yes, we can use it and everything, but uh, we have to have a balance, because the difference is being able to balance those things to
Mhm.
where you don't forget some of the things that are less uh, uh, promoted or less glamorous, still have value. You
Yes.
know, there's another end of that, and that's not just with music or art or anything like that. That's the entire society. We're suffering right now because that whole concept of balance is out of balance.
Mhm.
You know what I'm saying? We're now leaning towards uh, you know, everything has got to be the high end, the superpower, the super this, the most glorious, who's the best, and all that kind of stuff. See, that takes away from the innate, natural appreciation of what is there.
In other words, materialism is taking over the essence of life.
Right. Yeah, that's true. And so we do, and it requires a balance. That's all, we understand that. But when it gets to be top heavy, as it is now,
Mhm.
you start to lose appreciation for the simple things that are there, and that'll come back to haunt you.
Well, we hope that you continue your good work for a long, long time, Dewan Muhammad.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Okay. Okay.